I went and saw Godzilla Kong yesterday, and had a
I think there might be more Godzilla movies where he fights Kong than there is Ghostbuster movies. If we count like all the Japanese only stuff.
yeah,
Anyways,
yeah.
on to your point.
So I had a fun time in this movie. It was after Godzilla Kong, they left off. They fought a Mecha Godzilla. In the last one, they basically did a Justice League or a Dawn of Justice and teamed up at the end and took down Mecha Godzilla and both parted their separate ways after not really fucking with each other, Godzilla and Kong. So Godzilla, when we see him in this movie starting off, he's essentially, roaming Earth, just essentially like taking out any monsters that spawn up. So he's sleeping in the Coliseum. He's just he's just napping there, and then whenever something pops up in Rome or whatever, he'll just go over there, beat the shit out of him, and then he'll fuck off back to the Coliseum. So I thought that was a funny concept. But so Kong, on the other hand, is down in below Earth. There's like an area, like an inner core of Earth where all of the dwellers of ancient times live. So Kong is essentially down there. He's looking for anyone of his own kind because he's never seen a Kong that is his own species. So he's being a sad boy, laying just chilling down in the middle of Earth, and then he eventually finds like a rift opening in like the core Earth that goes even deeper into Earth. So in the last one, they're like we got to go deeper into the Earth. And then in this one, it just seemed like they're like, all right, we got to go even deeper. So Kong jumps down there.
See how deep it goes.
And this is where all the Kongs live. And so
wait, deep in the Earth?
Yeah, so deep. So like there's another section of the Earth below. It's not called Middle Earth, but I'm just going to call it Middle Earth, even though that's from Lord of the Rings. Yeah. But so below Middle Earth is this area where it's all these Kongs that are being, they're essentially slaves to this dude whose name is Scar King, and he's like this really brutal. He's like this brutal looking Kong who's all scarred up and everything, and he's got like this chain that's like a spine or something, but just typical monsterverse stuff. But so Kong realizes that, and then he goes back up to the surface to get Godzilla, because the dude down below, he's got his own version of Godzilla, like a frost giant or something that's got like, similar to Godzilla's powers, where he can like power up and then shoot a laser at you or something. And so he goes back up to get Godzilla, and he's like, I know he's essentially like, we're not on the best terms, but he'll help me fight this dude. So Kong shows up to the pyramids in Egypt, and Godzilla sees him from across the ocean, so he just beelines for him, and then or he doesn't see him across the ocean, but he senses him, so he beelines towards Egypt, and he essentially just tackles him through the pyramid. So essentially,
I saw that clip.
Yeah, so the whole movie is essentially like a bunch, like Godzilla. He's essentially just been watching some WWE. Like he did threw Godzilla on his back, and that was pretty sick. And then in the opening, he was like fighting like a giant crab or something, and he's like literally just doing some WWE moves on him. It was pretty sick. But there was this part where Kong apparently had like a cavity or something, or he had like tooth rot in his tooth. So they have to sedate him, and they have to put like a metal tooth in him. And so when he goes down to like the below Middle Earth, like he gets mocked because he has a metal tooth, and then people are like all the monkeys are like pointing at him and laughing at him. And so yeah, he's essentially, being outcast, except for this little tiny monkey who you've probably seen on the ads. He's like a little tiny red monkey who shows up, and he's essentially the only one who is on Kong's side. And he at the very end, he helps Kong take out, I think, their his own kind. It seemed like there's some, like, a few different version of Kong, but yeah. So it's essentially this baby Kong, King Kong, and Godzilla all fighting against, this army of Kongs with this Scar King guy. But yeah, and then at the very end, in typical fashion, another monster shows up to then defeat the Scar King, and make Godzilla calm down, because Mothra is the queen of the monsters and Godzilla is the king of the monsters. But
Right.
no, overall it was you know what you're getting with these movies. It's a MonsterVerse movie, and I couldn't really tell you a single human character name in it. There's Dan Stevens, he's in it. He's pretty good in it. David Tyree Henry, who was in Bullet Train, he was in it. He's pretty good in it. But yeah, I could not tell you a single person's name in it, because really you just show up for these movies just to see Lizard punch monkey. And at the end of the day, that's what they did. And they did do some things like differently from the last movies that I thought were cool. Like there was a fight that took place in zero gravity for whatever reason. Like they somehow turned off the gravity in the below Middle Earth, and so like Godzilla and Kong and Scar King were all fighting in zero gravity. So I thought that was pretty interesting, even though didn't really make sense. And now thinking about it, like the weights of all of them, I guess down there, like their weights are all proportional because they're all giant beings. But but yeah, so there's a fight in zero gravity, so that was that was pretty cool. And then Godzilla's pink now. He turned from blue, and then he ate like a pink monster, so now he's pink now. So yeah, overall, I'll give it a 2.5 out of 5.
It's funny. Movies are funny because like you're expected to just rate them all out of like 5 or 10 or whatever your rating scale is. But then there's just movies that are just unlike other movies. Like I don't know. It's wild that we rate something like Godzilla v Kong on the same scale as we would rate like Zone of Interest. It's just like such a so different of mediums, but they're both movies. So hey, it's letterbox time.
Yep.
I mean, it sounds interesting. It kind of sounds like all the good parts about Transformers, and I've seen all the Transformers. I haven't quite gotten into the MonsterVerse yet. But the good parts about Transformers are them just doing cool shit, which you don't get a lot in the later films. And that's really the reason people were going to those, and probably why they stopped going to those. They got boring, but it seems like people are still going to these. And obviously they have a strong overseas presence, and sounds like for the most part they're pretty low on dialogue, so it can be adapted pretty easily to other markets without alienating anything. And so I don't think that there's any chance these ever don't make money. So, keep doing it. It doesn't hurt anyone. It has its fans, and I don't care. I do find it interesting though that there's not the same kind of outcry about these as there was about like Marvel movies at their peak. Like we just had 2 Godzilla movies drop within 6 months. Like that's wild.
Well, I mean, like this one was a Warner Brothers like American Godzilla movie, and the other one was a Japanese production. So like
I see.
so they're not in the same universe, I
It's like
guess, and it's a different
Venom
production
Spider-Man
house.
situation.
Yeah, yeah,
It's like when people attribute the Sony movies to the MCU, which happens a lot. They just kind of attribute all of, any Craven the Hunter. A lot of people think is an MCU thing for some reason.
yeah.
But yeah, I will eventually get through those movies. It sounds like a good time with some drinks, some friends, and just watch some monsters fighting. And would you recommend it to people, like, let's say they've just never seen a MonsterVerse film? Should they start with this one, or should they start with a different one?
I think you could go into this one without having seen it. I think it does a good job of explaining it. But my favorite of the universe is Kong Skull Island, which I think is like a great starting point and just a great movie in general.